Hot news from the Middle East battlefield. U.S. Air Force B-52 Stratofortress bombers have officially entered the war, directly participating in airstrikes targeting Iran in the rapidly escalating campaign.
We have severely degraded Iran's air defenses and destroyed hundreds of Iran's ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones. And in simple terms, we're focused on shooting all the things that can shoot at us. Our B-2 bombers and B-1 bombers have executed uncontested surgical strikes against multiple missile facilities deep inside Iran. And then just last night, a B-52 bomber force struck ballistic missile and command and control posts.
According to the latest military information, B-52s have been deployed to strike Iran's most critical targets, including ballistic missile launch platforms, command and control centers, as well as military infrastructure of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC. The scale of this campaign is extremely large. In the first 72 hours, more than 700 military targets were attacked, and in just about 100 hours into the campaign, that number has approached 2,000 targets across Iranian territory. The U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, has confirmed that American strategic bombers, including the B-52, have carried out direct attacks on Iran's strategic command centers and missile systems to weaken its ability to conduct attacks in the region. Picture the scene in the sky. Massive B-52s flying thousands of kilometers from distant bases, carrying dozens of tons of weapons, then from a safe distance launching volleys of cruise missiles deep into Iranian territory, hitting heavily fortified military facilities, from missile launch sites to campaign coordination centers. This is not just a routine airstrike. This is the appearance of one of the most iconic symbols of power in U.S. Air Force history. And in this video, we will dive deep into analyzing the entire story behind it. The real role of the B-52 in the ongoing campaign, how it is contributing to dismantling Iran's missile program, and more importantly, why an aircraft first designed in 1952 can still appear on the battlefield in 2026 and continue to dominate with its enormous firepower. To understand why the B-52's appearance on the Iranian battlefield is so significant, we need to look at the machine itself and how U.S. leaders are talking about it in the context of the current campaign. The B-52 Stratofortress is not just a bomber. It is a symbol of strategic attack power that the United States has maintained for over 7 decades. The first B-52 took off in 1952, during the most tense period of the Cold War, when Washington needed a platform capable of carrying nuclear weapons across continents to deter the Soviet Union. Remarkably, more than 70 years later, the same type of aircraft is still appearing in modern military campaigns. In military history, very few weapon systems have such a long combat lifespan while still holding a central role on the battlefield. That's why when the B-52 appears in the campaign in Iran, many U.S. officials see it as a sign that Washington is using its strongest strategic tools. In a recent statement, President Donald Trump emphasized that the United States will ensure the global flow of energy and protect allies in the region, while affirming that the U.S. military is using all necessary air power to neutralize missile threats. At the same time, officials from the Department of Defense and U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, stated that strategic bombers, including the B-52, have been deployed to strike Iran's missile facilities and command centers to reduce Tehran's ability to attack in the region. These statements clearly reflect the B-52's role in the current military strategy, not just an attack tool, but a signal of strategic power sent to the adversary. Throughout its service history, the B-52 has participated in nearly every major U.S. conflict. In the Vietnam War, it conducted large-scale bombing campaigns like Linebacker II, where Stratofortresses dropped thousands of tons of bombs on strategic targets. In the 1991 Gulf War, B-52s flew missions lasting dozens of hours from distant bases to attack Iraqi forces. After 2001, it continued to appear in campaigns in Afghanistan and Iraq, providing precise firepower and enormous bomb loads to support ground forces. Technically, the B-52 remains a formidable platform, even by modern standards. The aircraft can carry about 70,000 pounds of weapons or more than 30 tons of bombs and missiles in a single sortie. Its range is intercontinental, and with aerial refueling capability, the B-52 can operate almost anywhere in the world. The 5-person crew operates a machine over 48 meters long, with enormous wingspan and 8 jet engines, allowing it to perform missions lasting dozens of hours continuously. But what truly makes the B-52 fearsome is not just its size or age, but 3 core tactical advantages. First is its enormous weapon payload, larger than almost every other bomber currently in operation worldwide. Second is its ability to carry a wide variety of weapons, from precision-guided JDAM bombs to long-range cruise missiles like JASSM. allowing it to perform many different types of missions. And third, perhaps most importantly, is the ability to launch standoff weapons from very long distances, meaning the aircraft does not need to fly deep into enemy air defense zones while still being able to accurately strike targets. When compared to other US bombers, the B-52's role becomes even clearer. The B-2 Spirit is a stealth bomber designed to penetrate modern air defense systems and directly attack strategic targets. The B-1B Lancer is a supersonic bomber capable of high-speed strikes. The B-52, on the other hand, plays a different role. It is a strategic attack platform with an extremely large payload, capable of maintaining continuous firepower pressure on the enemy over a long period. In other words, while the B-2 paves the way and the B-1 delivers fast strikes, the B-52 is the machine that provides destructive power on a massive scale. And that is why, even in modern warfare, the B-52 may not be the fastest or stealthiest aircraft in the sky, but when it comes to carrying enormous amounts of weapons and sustaining strategic attack power, it remains one of the most destructive bombing platforms in the entire US arsenal. Looking at the Iranian battlefield in recent hours, the true role of the B-52 Stratofortress is becoming clearer than ever, and it goes far beyond the classic image of an aircraft flying over the sky and dropping bombs on targets. In the latest airstrikes confirmed by US Central Command, B-52s have been used to strike the most important links in Iran's attack system, including ballistic missile launch sites, command and control centers, missile storage facilities, and many military positions belonging to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, US. Military officials stated that the campaign's objective is to weaken Iran's ability to conduct missile attacks in the region, especially after Tehran launched hundreds of missiles and drones at targets related to the US and its allies in the area. In the latest statement, CENTCOM officials said US airstrikes have hit a series of coordination centers and missile launch platforms, causing Iran's attack coordination capability to be significantly graded. Washington also emphasized that this campaign focuses on destroying military infrastructure, particularly facilities related to Iran's missile program. President Donald Trump, in a recent statement, also stressed that the US goal is to neutralize capabilities that could threaten US forces and partners in the region, while affirming that the US military will continue to act until these threats are eliminated. Meanwhile, Iran has reacted strongly to these airstrikes. Iranian officials declared that the US attacks are aggression and warned that Tehran will continue to retaliate. Iranian state media also claimed that the country's air defense forces are still operating and that many US targets were intercepted, although independent sources indicate that many important military facilities have been hit. However, to understand why the B-52 can perform this role so effectively, we need to look at how it is used in modern airstrike tactics. Unlike the B-2 Spirit, the B-52 is not a stealth aircraft, and its design dates back to the Cold War era, before stealth technology became central to air warfare. That means if it flies directly into dense air defense zones, it could become an easy target to detect. Therefore, in modern warfare, the B-52 often operates in a standoff strike model. Instead of having to penetrate deep into enemy airspace, it can stand outside the danger zone and launch long-range weapons that fly hundreds of kilometers to hit targets. In current campaigns, the tactical process usually begins with stealth aircraft like the F-22, F-35, and B-2 entering first to break down air defense systems. Early warning radars, air defense command stations, and surface-to-air missile launchers will be attacked in the first hours of the campaign. When these defense layers are weakened, a relatively safe airspace corridor opens up. And it is at that moment that heavy attack platforms like the B-52 begin to unleash their power. From a safe distance, the B-52 can launch volleys of cruise missiles deep into enemy territory, hitting pre-identified targets using satellite reconnaissance systems and reconnaissance aircraft. These missiles fly at low altitude and are precisely guided, allowing them to attack targets such as missile depots, command centers, or heavily fortified underground bunkers. One factor that makes the B-52 an extremely dangerous tool in this type of warfare is its ability to carry a large number of weapons in a single sortie. A single B-52 can carry more than 20 long-range cruise missiles, not to mention many other guided bombs. That means with just one aircraft, the US military can strike dozens of different targets simultaneously. If multiple B-52s join an attack wave, the number of targets hit can increase very quickly in a short time. For the enemy's defense system, this is an extremely difficult scenario to counter. When dozens or hundreds of cruise missiles arrive at the same time from multiple directions, interception becomes incredibly complicated. Radars must track too many targets at once. Air defense units must react in very short time, and just a few missiles getting through is enough to cause serious damage to military infrastructure. It is because of this ability to generate enormous firepower that military analysts often call the B-52 a force multiplier, meaning a factor that can multiply the power of the entire campaign. A single B-52 is not just one aircraft but a platform carrying attack power equivalent to an entire combat unit. When combined with reconnaissance satellites, stealth aircraft, electronic warfare systems, and modern command networks, the B-52 becomes part of a complex attack system capable of breaking down the enemy's military structures. One of the reasons the B-52 Stratofortress remains an extremely dangerous platform on the modern battlefield lies not in the aircraft itself, but in the massive weapons ecosystem it can carry. Over many decades, the U.S. Air Force have continuously upgraded compatible weapons for the B-52, turning this aircraft into a long-range weapon launch platform capable of striking targets from hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away. The most prominent weapon today is the AGM-158 JASSM, a stealth cruise missile designed to penetrate modern air defense systems. The JASSM flies low, has a small radar cross-section, and uses highly precise guidance systems, allowing it to approach targets with the enemy having almost no time to react. Its extended range version, the JASSM-IER, increases the range even further, enabling the aircraft to launch missiles from outside the danger zone while still hitting strategic targets deep inside enemy territory. In addition, the B-52 can carry the AGM-86 ALCM, a strategic cruise missile that has served for decades but remains extremely effective at attacking fixed targets such as military bases, command centers, or critical infrastructure. Beyond cruise missiles, the B-52 also carries precision-guided bombs like JDAM. This system turns conventional bombs into smart weapons by adding a GPS guidance kit, allowing them to hit targets with high accuracy from long distances. In modern airstrike campaigns, JDAM is used to destroy military facilities, weapons depots, or strategic infrastructure at a much lower cost than cruise missiles while still ensuring the necessary precision. Another weapon the B-52 can carry is the JSO, or Joint Standoff Weapon, a glide bomb that can travel dozens of kilometers after release, allowing the aircraft to attack targets without getting too close to dangerous areas. Additionally, in maritime missions, the B-52 can carry Harpoon anti-ship missiles, turning it into a long-range naval attack platform capable of threatening enemy warships from a significant distance. But what makes this entire weapon system truly terrifying is not just the individual weapons, but how they are used together in modern attack tactics. A single B-52 can carry dozens of weapons in one mission, and when the attack moment arrives, it can execute what is called a salvo strike, launching multiple missiles almost simultaneously toward different targets. Imagine a scenario where one B-52 launches more than 20 cruise missiles within a few minutes. These missiles fly along different routes, at low altitudes, and from various approach directions. For the enemy's air defense system, this creates a tactical nightmare. Radars must track too many targets at once. Control systems must decide which targets to intercept first, and air defense launchers can quickly become overwhelmed when the number of incoming missiles exceeds their reaction capacity. The result is that even modern air defense systems can be penetrated if faced with such a dense attack wave. That is how the B-52 creates overwhelming superiority on the battlefield. Not by sneaking in like stealth aircraft, but by using enormous firepower volume to overload every defense system. More importantly, the B-52 does not need to fly deep into enemy airspace to accomplish this mission. Thanks to long-range weapons, it can stay outside the danger zone, hundreds of kilometers from the target, and still accurately strike critical military facilities. This means that even if the enemy still has some functioning air defense systems, the B-52 can maintain a safe distance while launching weapons. It is precisely this combination of long-range, large weapons payload and salvo strike tactics that makes the B-52 a nearly unstoppable attack platform in many modern warfare scenarios. In fact, many military analysts argue that when the B-52 is deployed in a campaign, it often acts as a flying weapons launcher, where the real power lies not in the aircraft but in the quantity and variety of weapons it can bring to the battlefield. In the context of attacks targeting Iran's missile facilities and command centers, this capability is especially crucial. It allows the US military to strike multiple strategic targets in a very short time, disrupting command systems and destroying military infrastructure before the enemy can react. And that is why the B-52, despite being more than 7 decades old, remains one of the most formidable attack tools in the US arsenal. To understand why the B-52 can operate so effectively in this campaign, we must look at Iran's actual air defense capabilities and the structural limitations in that system. In theory, Iran possesses some fairly notable air defense systems, including Russian-supplied S-300 complexes, some long-range early warning radars originating from China, along with many older domestically developed or acquired surface-to-air missile systems over decades. If looking only at the equipment list, it might seem that Iran has an air defense network strong enough to create a significant barrier against aerial attacks. However, Iran's biggest problem is not the number of individual weapon systems, but the lack of a truly modern integrated air defense network. An effective air defense system is not just independent radars and missile launchers, but requires the ability to connect all those components into a unified network where data is shared in real time. Sensors from multiple sources are fused to create a clear battlefield picture, and air defense units can coordinate to respond quickly to threats. These are the elements that Iran still lacks. Many of their radar and missile systems operate relatively independently. Data sharing between units is limited, and the level of sensor fusion, the ability to combine data from multiple sensors for accurate situational awareness, cannot compare to the modern air defense networks of major military powers. When the airstrike campaign begins, these limitations are quickly exposed. In the first hours, U.S. stealth aircraft such as the F-22, F-35, and especially the B-2 Spirit are used to attack the most critical components of Iran's air defense network. Long-range early warning radars are neutralized. Air defense coordination command stations are hit, and many SAM launchers are destroyed or forced to shut down to avoid detection. When the eyes and ears of the air defense system are blinded in this way, the entire defense network begins to lose coordination capability. One radar unit may detect a target for a short period, but cannot transmit that data quickly enough to missile launchers in other areas. Air defense units lack sufficient information to accurately determine the threat's approach direction, and this significantly reduces effective interception capability. It is in this context that long-range attack platforms like the B-52 begin to play their role. When most critical radar and SAM systems have been neutralized or weakened, the B-52 can operate at a relatively safe distance outside the danger zone. From that position, it launches long-range cruise missiles deep into Iranian territory to hit strategic targets. These missiles fly low, use precise guidance systems, and sometimes feature reduced radar detectability, making tracking and interception extremely difficult. For any remaining operational Iranian air defense units, the biggest challenge at this point is detecting targets early enough to react. With radars destroyed or forced to operate under limited conditions to avoid further attacks, the ability to detect incoming cruise missiles or weapon-carrying aircraft early is significantly reduced. Even if some targets are detected, the air defense system still faces a second problem: effective interception. Cruise missiles often fly at low altitudes and can approach from multiple directions, requiring extremely fast-reacting radar and missile systems for interception. If the number of simultaneous incoming targets exceeds the system's processing capacity, some missiles are almost certain to get through. In the case of B-52 supported attacks, where many missiles can be launched nearly simultaneously, the pressure on the enemy's air defense system becomes even greater. This is why military analysts often emphasize that when a platform like the B-52 operates in a standoff attack model, the enemy's ability to stop it becomes extremely limited. The weapon-carrying aircraft does not need to enter dense air defense zones, while long-range cruise missiles can come in from multiple directions with high accuracy. The result is that even if Iran still has some functioning air defense systems, they face great difficulties in early detection, continuous tracking, and effective interception of threats. And that is why, in this modern warfare scenario, when the B-52 operates from standoff range, Iran has almost no reliable option to truly stop it. Looking beyond individual airstrikes, the appearance of the B-52 on the battlefield is not simply the deployment of another bomber type, but carries much greater strategic significance for how the United States conducts modern warfare. The B-52 Stratofortress represents one of the core capabilities of the U.S. military global strike capability. This is the ability that allows the United States to launch precise attacks on targets anywhere in the world in a very short time, without needing to deploy large forces in the area beforehand. With its intercontinental range and aerial refueling capability, the B-52 can take off from bases thousands of kilometers from the battlefield, fly through multiple airspace regions, and still carry out high-precision attack missions. This gives Washington an extremely important strategic advantage: the ability to respond quickly to crises without maintaining large forces in every region of the world. In the case of attacks targeting Iran's missile and military facilities, this means B-52s can fly from very distant bases, refuel in the air multiple times if needed, and then launch long-range weapons at targets with high accuracy. For military planners, this is clear proof of the ability to project power anywhere on Earth, meaning the capability to project military power to any hotspot on the planet. Not many countries can do this on a similar scale. Deploying the B-52 in such campaigns sends a clear message not only to the direct adversary, but to the entire international system. That message is that the United States still possesses the world's most powerful air force, combining modern technology, a global logistics network, and decades of real combat experience. Stealth aircraft like the B-2 and F-35 can penetrate air defenses. Fighters like the F-15 and F-22 can control the skies, while platforms like the B-52 can carry enormous weapons payloads to sustain continuous attack pressure. When all these elements are combined in the same campaign, the result is an air power system that is nearly unmatched. What makes the B-52 even more special is its age. This is an aircraft designed in the early 1950s in the context of the Cold War, when its primary mission was to carry nuclear weapons across continents to deter the Soviet Union. However, through multiple upgrades to electronics, weapons, and control systems, the B-52 has been transformed into an attack platform fully suited to 21st century warfare. It can carry stealth cruise missiles, precision-guided bombs, and many other modern weapons, turning a design from over 70 years ago into an extremely effective combat tool in modern campaigns. This reflects an important characteristic of US military power: the ability to continuously improve and integrate new technology into time-proven platforms. The result is that even an aircraft designed during the Cold War can still appear on today's battlefield and play a central role in strategic attack campaigns. And it is precisely this combination of experience, technology, and scale that has allowed the B-52 to maintain its position as one of the clearest symbols of US air power in the skies of the world. So what can happen next now that the B-52 has officially appeared on the battlefield? If the current campaign continues on its current trajectory, we are very likely to witness subsequent airstrikes on an even larger scale. The B-52s have the capability to conduct multiple consecutive attack waves, each time carrying dozens of tons of weapons and launching volleys of cruise missiles at strategic targets. This means other important Iranian military facilities, from missile storage depots, production facilities, to remaining command centers, could continue to become targets in the coming days. If the campaign escalates, in this scenario, Iran's missile attack capability could be significantly degraded, especially if launch platforms, reserve stocks, and coordination networks are destroyed on a large scale. When those critical links are eliminated, Iran's ability to conduct large-scale missile attacks in the region will be sharply reduced. At the same time, the campaign could expand to other targets if US military planners believe additional pressure is needed to deter future threats. But perhaps the most important message here lies in the very appearance of the B-52. When Washington decides to bring such a heavy strategic bomber platform into the campaign, it sends a very clear signal that the United States is prepared to use its full air power if necessary. Over many decades, military analysts have often said that when the B-52 appears on the battlefield, it is not just a simple escalation step. It is often a sign that the US has achieved strategic air superiority and is moving into a phase of maximum pressure on the adversary. And that is exactly the picture we are witnessing right now. But what do you think about the appearance of the B-52 in this campaign? Will it really change the situation or not? Please leave your opinion in the comments section below. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the latest battlefield analyses. And check out the next video appearing on your screen to continue following the important developments of this conflict.